Alright, welcome back artistic ladies and gentlemen to another Meta Mondays episode in this Pokémon TCG Online series where we take a look at competitive decks from the past or the present in a Pokémon TCG Online meta, as well as decks that might or might not become a part of the meta in the future. And today we take a look at a Mega Scizor EX deck for the new standard format, the 2016 and 2017 standard format. That means we will only be playing cards from the Primal Clash set onwards in this deck here. Mega Scizor EX is a 220 HP metal type Pokemon with one attack and one attack only. The Iron Crusher hits for 120 for 2 metal energies. You may discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon or a stadium card in play. And I'm playing this Mega Scizor EX today because I think it can actually be quite good in the new standard format. In that new standard format, decks like Mega Rayquaza and Mega Mewtwo are hyped quite a lot, and Mega Scizor can easily discard energies from those decks because those decks do rely on DCEs. So we can discard those energies with our Mega Scizor here with the Iron Crusher, or we can simply opt to discard a stadium, for example, discard the Sky Field from Mega Rayquaza and then put our own stadium in place in the next turn. We are going to help Mega Scizor EX with discarding things by using Crushing Hammers here. Crushing Hammer, flip a coin, if heads, discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So what we are going to try to do is, if you are up against a Mega Rayquaza with 1, a DCE attached to it, and 2, a single maybe metal energy attached to it, we will try to flip a heads on the Crushing Hammer here to discard that metal energy, and then we'll hit for the Iron Crusher for 120 and discard a DCE, and just like that, that Mega Rayquaza EX has no energies attached to it, and we force my opponent to find a new DCE and to find maybe a Mega Turbo to power it up in his turn so he can actually attack us. So pretty darn good combination here, and we are even going to make it stronger by adding a 2-2 line of Trubbish and Garbodor. Garbodor with the Garbo Toxin ability. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool card attached to it, each Pokemon in play in each player's hand and in each player's discard pile has no abilities. Yes, that is right. And now, what could Garbodor be used for? We could use Garbodor against Yanmega BREAK with the Water Shurikens, but we can also just use it to shut down my opponent's Shaymins, my opponent's Hoopas and whatnot. Anything that relies on an ability from my opponent, or for example maybe a Carbink, we can use it to shut down a Carbink as well, which is fantastic because then we don't need to dig for our Hexmaniac. I do play 1 copy of Hexmaniac in addition to Garbodor because sometimes we might not be able to get out Garbodor, or my opponent might Lysander our Garbodor and knock it out, and then we still have our Hexmaniac here to get rid of the Safeguard ability from a Carbink, so we can still attack the Carbink with our Mega Scizor EX. Now what's interesting about this Garbodor here is that once we have attached a tool card to our Garbodor, it is most likely there to stay, because in the new 2016 and 2017 format, at the moment there's no real way to remove tool cards in that format. There's no Zero Sick, there's no Startling Megaphone or anything like that anymore. So once we attach our tool cards here, Garbotoxin will forever remain active in the game, which means my opponent cannot use his abilities for the entirety or for the rest of that entire game, which is pretty awesome. I do run 2 Floatstones to attach to my Garbodor. Floatstone is not only helpful to activate the Garbotoxin, but also gives our Garbodor that necessary flexibility so we can retreat it onto our bench when our opponent does decide to Lysander it out to annoy us or to try to knock it out. And then we have 3 Spiritlings as the other tool card of choice. Spiritlings obviously for our Scizor EX, so we can evolve into our Mega Scizor without having to pause a turn, because if we don't have these Spiritlings, we will have to pause a turn because of the Mega Evolution rule, and we don't want to do that. We want to evolve and then attack in the very same turn. So 2 Floatstones, 3 Spiritlings. Scizor EX has got 2 attacks, unlike the Mega Scizor EX. Scizor EX can hit for a Steel Wing for 20 and then reduce 20 damage done to itself in the next turn, or can hit for a Gale Thrust for 50 for 2 metal energies, which seems pretty lackluster, but actually we can do more damage. We do 60 more damage if this Pokemon was on the bench and became our active Pokemon in the very same turn that we use the Gale Thrust attack. So we can actually hit for 110 there, and that is pretty good. If we could Lysander out one of our opponent's Shaymin, I do have 1 Lysander in his deck, because if we Lysander out their Shaymin in that very same turn and we hit for the Steel Wing or for the Gale Thrust, Trust for 110, we can actually knock out that Shaman and take 2 very easy prizes. I do run 2 Shamans myself for setup to help us draw through a deck. In addition to the Hoopa, I couldn't speak there for a moment. In addition to the Hoopa as well, Hoopa allows us to search out our Scizor, to search out our Shaman, and to search out our Mega Scizor EX, all in a very same turn just by playing down the Hoopa on the bench. And then finally we have one more Pokemon. We have the Cobalion, the basic Cobalion. This is the only basic attacker that is not an EX that we have in this deck, with 120 HP, a Steel type, and 2 attacks. The Quick Guard prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon cannot use Quick Guard during your next turn, which is pretty useful sometimes, especially in the late game when we are behind in the prizes. If my opponent has taken 4 prizes, for example, we can use a Quick Guard if my opponent is playing basic Pokemon and then prevent damage done to Cobalion while we look for another energy for our next turn, and we can attach that energy in the next turn to our Cobalion and hit for a Revenge Blast for 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if my opponent has taken 4 prize cards, we hit for 150 damage. If he has taken 5 prize cards, we actually hit for 180 damage, and that is a pretty darn good comeback attack, especially if or when we combine it with N. We can use N in the very same turn and my opponent back down to 2 or 1 cards and then hit for the Revenge Blast for a knockout on his active Pokemon. And if he does not really have any bench Pokemon ready to go, we might just be able to pull off that much desired comeback here with our Cobalion. So 2 Ns and then 4 Sycamores for draw support in addition to our Shaman. And I have one more card which can help us draw through a deck, which is the Giovanni Scheme. Draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hands. Most of the time, however, we will use this card for its secondary effect. During this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So we are going to try to use this when we are up against a baby Volcanion or a baby Yveltal and use it in combination with our Mega Scizor EX, because that would allow us, or would allow our Mega Scizor EX to hit for 140 against the baby Yveltal and a baby Volcanion, and that is just enough to knock out those little pesky Pokemon, and we definitely need to knock them out in 1 hit, because if we take 2 hits to knock them out, then we give my opponent way too much time to set up on his bench and then come in with an EX, knock out our Mega Scizor, and then we are left with nothing really to respond. So we really need to deal with those baby Pokemon as soon as we can, and Giovanni is going to help us with that. Then we finally have one more supporter card. It is the Pokemon Ranger, simply in this deck to deal with Regice and Regice only. Regice is a huge pain in the ass for us because he prevents damage done to himself by Mega Scizor EX. We do have the Cobalion here to deal with the Regice, but the Cobalion only can 1-hit KO the Regice if my opponent has taken 1 prize card. If he has done that and did not attach a Fighting Fury Belt, we can hit for 60 times 2 because of weakness on the Regice is 120. But if my opponent has not taken a prize card yet, we can use our Pokemon Ranger and then hit for the Iron Crusher against the Regice to knock it out. So that is why Pokemon Ranger is in this deck. Then finally, let's talk about the item cards. We have 4 Crushing Hammers as discussed earlier for our strategy to discard my opponent's energies in combination with the Iron Crusher. We have 2 Escape Rope. Escape Rope is much needed in this deck because our Pokemon have 2 retreat cost. The Mega Scizor has 2 retreat cost, Scizor EX has a 2 retreat cost, Hoopa has a 2 retreat cost, and Cobalion has a 2 retreat cost as well. So we need those Escape Ropes for flexibility to switch between our Pokemon in addition to our Float Stones. Then we have 1 Mega Turbo to power up our Mega Scizor a little bit faster in times of need. We can use this Mega Turbo to power up our Mega Scizor in 1 turn. All we need to do is attach an energy from our hands and then Mega Turbo for an energy from our discard pile, and just like that, our Mega Scizor EX is ready to hit for that Iron Crusher attack. Then we have 1 Super Rod to shuffle back some energies and Pokemon in our deck. We have 4 Ultra Balls to look for our Pokemon and especially to look for our Hoopa at the start of the game. We have 4 VS Seekers to get back our supporters. And finally, last but not least, we have 4 Puzzles of Time. Puzzles of Time are mostly going to be used to get back our Crushing Hammers from the discard pile and sometimes also our Mega Turbo, because Mega Turbo is quite useful to power up our Mega Scizors. So in a late game, we are going to use this Puzzle of Time to look for our hammers and our Mega Turbos, and you never know, maybe sometimes a Listener as well, if we are out of VS Seekers or something like that. And I do think I have forgotten to discuss one card here. It is the Stadium of Choice. Only one stadium in this deck and only one copy of that stadium, and it is Parallel City. Parallel City to reduce my opponent's bench size to 3 cards. Very powerful against Mega Rayquaza EX, but also just very powerful against any EX decks, because EX decks typically do need a lot of bench space. We only run the one copy because we have the Iron Crusher attack to discard my opponent's stadiums, so we don't need too many counter stadiums, and I didn't really have too much space for stadiums anyways in this deck. And that is it for this deck analysis. Alright, I'm going to find myself some opponents in a versus ladder right now. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy the upcoming battles. It is always much appreciated, and I'll see you in the battles in a moment. Our first contender is Leafy with a colorless and a grass deck. Leafy, I believe there's a YouTuber called Leafy. I'm not sure. I've heard about him, but I don't really watch his channel. I don't think this is going to be that YouTuber, but you never know, it might be. We do start off with, ooh, that's a bummer hand actually. We do start off with a Trubbish. We have our Sycamore for draw support, but we are forced to discard a lot of resources here. We need to discard a Spirit Link, Puzzle of Time, Crushing Hammer. I hope we can top deck an Ultra Ball or something. My opponent does start off with a Shaman, which is not good for my opponents. My opponent does not want to start off with a Shaman if he can. Luckily, we might be able to evolve into our Trubbish very soon here, unless into our Garbodor, unless my opponent's item locks us, and then we cannot really use our Garbodor. We cannot really attach any float stones or anything like that. But he discards the Yanmega BREAK, so I don't think we will see an item lock from the Vileplume. Although you never know, it could be Yanmega BREAK with Vileplume in the same deck. Oh my goodness, a secret rare Ultra Ball and another secret rare Ultra Ball. Discards the DCE. There's a Yanma. Wow, this is a very rich opponent. You never know, it actually might be Leaf here. And there's a Shaman for 6 cards. Okie dokie. Pianissimoki. 6 cards, that is pretty darn amazing. Definitely a better start than we are having here. Floatstone on the Shaman in the active, look at that. And there's a Yanmega already. We will need to retreat this Trubbish here, I think. A Great Ball fails. And then we see another Great Ball. Oh my goodness, another one for Yanmega. Ooh. I don't think my opponent wanted to see that Yanmega there, because he doesn't have a Yanma to evolve into a Yanmega. Will we just see a pass of the turn here? I think we might just see a pass of the turn. Yes, there's a pass of the turn. Alrighty, we get an energy. Oh, bummer. Oh, bummer indeed. Well, let's attach the Spirit Link. Let's attach... Do we attach the energy? I guess not. I could Hex Maniac actually, but I'm going to Sycamore. We need a backup benched Pokemon, because this Trubbish can go down very, very soon here. There's our Scizor. Here's our Spirit Link. Fantastic stuff. We have another Trubbish, which is good. Another Scizor as well, which we also need. So let's bench this Trubbish as well, and then let's use our Puzzle of Time. Can we find anything for the next turn? VS Seeker, look at that. That is exactly what we needed there, that VS Seeker. So we will top deck the VS Seeker in the next turn, and then hopefully attack with our Mega Scizor the turn after that, or in the next turn actually. If we can somehow retreat this Trubbish, that would be nice. Unfortunately, we had to attach one Spirit Link here to the Trubbish, so now we have one less Spirit Link that we can use. There we see the Yanmega. Yanmega can hit for the kill here with a Soul Boom. There we go, 120. We will knock out this Yanmega. Unfortunately for my opponents, if we can find another energy, we can very easily knock out this Yanmega. And then we are looking pretty darn good. There's our VS Seeker, as we knew we were going to top deck that VS Seeker. Amazing. And we will grab a Sycamore, not the Hex Maniac, although Hex Maniac is pretty darn useful as well against Yanmega. And do we get our energy? Yes, we do get our energy. We even get our Mega Turbo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up to Mega Turbo and attach an energy from my hand to the Scizor on the bench here. We'll put a Floatstone on this Trubbish, and we might be able to find our Garbodor to shut down my opponent's Yanmegas. And I think that will be GG here. All we need is our Garbodor. And there's the Garbodor. It is basically GG for my opponent now. He needs to find DCEs to power up his Pokemon, so we will hit for the Iron Crusher, discard that first of Giant Plants. This is amazing here. We got off to a pretty bad start, but look at this. We are taking the game into our own hands here. We get a Giovanni scheme, not really needed at the moment. We can one-hit KO those Shamans, so we don't really need the Giovanni. We might need to attach an energy to our Shaman so we can retreat the Shaman if my opponent decides to Lysen it out. There we do see an Ultra Ball. Does my opponent play any other attackers besides the Yanmega? Discards Bursting Balloon, gets another Yanma. does not give up at the moment, although things are looking pretty darn bad for my opponent, I must say here. Another Yanma, Bursting Balloon on the Yanma on the bench there, and a Judge. Alright, we get Judge, that's okay. I will still hit the Yanma despite the Bursting Balloon. I think I still will do that. Or we can simply Listener around it, because my opponent gave us the Listener from the Judge, which is very nice from my opponent. There we do see the Stadium. Not sure why my opponent decides to play down the Stadium if it does not have a Yanmega. He does have the Yanmegas there, Yanmega and Yanmega BREAK. We see the Yanmega. Will we see the Yanmega BREAK? There's another Yanmega. And the Yanmega BREAK. Alright, is my opponent going to promote that Yanmega BREAK with the Bursting Balloon? I think he will. I don't see a reason why he would not. Otherwise, we will take 2 very easy prizes on a Shaman, and then that Bursting Balloon is going to go to a waste here. So will we see the retreat, or will we not see the retreat? There's a DC on the Shaman on the bench. I might just, oh, he's going to Sky Return us. Alright, and then he'll promote the Yanmega BREAK. 30 damage from the Shaman. We see the Yanmega BREAK. We are not going to deal with this Yanmega BREAK at the moment. All we really need to do is knock out the Shaman to take 2 very easy prizes. We have Garbodor to help us at the moment here, so we can rely on the Garbodor to shut down my opponent's attacks. We'll hit for the Iron Crusher, discard this Forest of Giant Plants, take ourselves 2 prizes here, and things are looking up big time. Oh my goodness, this is... things are looking very great for us. We see our Hoopa and a Shaman. I'm gonna discard a Hoopa and something else, maybe the Ultra Ball or whatever I top deck, and I'm gonna find myself another Mega Scizor here, and that is going to be my plan. There we do see the DCE on the Yanmega BREAK and the Shaman for 0 cards, because we have our Garbodor in play. A Crushing Hammer. Alright, here's our hammers. Yes, look at that, that is why we have hammers in this deck. Amazing here. We managed, actually I'll discard the Shaman there, because we cannot use our Shaman with our Garbodor. I forgot nearly there, and we did see the concede from our opponents. We utterly destroyed this Yanmega BREAK deck. I kind of feel bad for my opponent. He was up against one of his worst matchups. Not only did we play Garbodor, but we also play Hammers to discard my opponent's energies, and we also play things like Hexmaniac to shut down his abilities if we don't have Garbodor. So yeah, that was a pretty darn bad matchup for my opponent. 240 damage dealt versus 150. Mega Scizor EX MVP versus Yanmega. Alright, let's find ourselves another opponent. Our next contender is Admiral Quillfish. Yes, very nice name there. Thumbs up for your name, sir. Good sir. Admiral Quillfish is playing with Darkrai, Giratina, Garbodor, I believe, or at least that's what I gathered from the loading screen. He decides to go first, which is a little bit of a bummer. Kinda want to go first here. We do start off with a mulligan. Otherwise, this was not too bad of hand, I would say. If only this was a Scizor EX, that would have been pretty nice. Is Garbodor useful against Darkrai, Giratina, Garbodor? I guess it is, because we can shut down the ability from the Giratina here. We do start off with another mulligan there. Actually, that was a good hand as well, if only that Garbodor was a Scizor. There's our Scizor, and I guess this is not too bad of hand either. We'll put our Trubbish in the extra spot actually, because we have our Floatstone here, and then bench one Scizor. Only one. We'll keep the other Scizor in our hand for now. We might have to discard it with an Ultra Ball or something, because I don't really want to discard the Floatstone, nor do I want to discard the Puzzle of Time. Our hammers are going to be especially useful against this Darkrai Giratina deck, to discard the double Dragon Energies from our opponent if we cannot Listener out the Giratina and then hit with the Iron Crusher to discard the DDE. We can always use our hammers. We do see an N from our opponent, which is a little bit sad, because now we need to find our Floatstone again. I was hoping we wouldn't see an N. That might kind of come to bite me in the ass there. We see a Hammer, Giovanni Scheme, Scizor, Parallel City. Don't really want to use the Parallel City, but I might have to, so I can draw more cards for my Giovanni Scheme, because Giovanni is the only card that we have in our hands that is useful to draw cards at the moment. Would love to top deck a Ultra Ball for a Hoopa here. This is a nice hand to use with an Ultra Ball for a Hoopa. We'll discard the Giovanni and the Parallel City, I think, or the Scizor. Now we do see a Max Elixir. Can we discard the first energy here with our Crushing Hammer on the Darkrai in the active spot? That's the big question. Oh, and an Ultra Ball. We top deck an Ultra Ball. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. So we are going to discard the Giovanni here. We are going to discard the Scizor EX. That top deck, that was unreal. And we do have our Hoopa in our deck, which is exactly what we needed here at the moment. So first of all, let's use our Hammer. Can we discard that energy? No, we cannot. That's a little bit of a bummer. Then let's play down our Parallel City. Yes, we will reduce my opponent's bench size. We'll play down our Hoopa. I'm not going to use my puzzle. I want to keep my puzzles for as long as I can here. A Shaman, and another Scizor. That is what we are going to go for. And then we have actually no more spots on our bench left. So we need to retreat this Trubbish somehow if we want to get out our Garbodor. We don't really need to hurry up to get out our Garbodor at the moment, because the Giratina is nowhere to be seen yet. An Ultra Ball. I could maybe get out another Trubbish here, discard one Shaman, and I think I'll do that. Discard an energy and a Shaman. We are going to grab ourselves another Trubbish. We only have the one Garbodor there, so we'll need to be a little bit lucky to find that Garbodor, because we have already used 2 of our Ultra Balls. And then it is time to end here. We are looking for our Spiritlings and our Mega Scizor. There's a Mega Scizor, but no Spiritlings. We do have the Escape Rope, which is good. So we are going to end our turn here, and then see what our opponent does. I might just Sycamore in the next turn. I'm not too sure here. We'll definitely attach an energy, then we'll Escape Rope. The question is, do we Sycamore? Now we do see an energy. Never mind, we will get knocked out. We will get knocked out here. Another Darkrai. That is 3 Darkrai's and a Giratina. There's a Giratina. Alright, now we do need to get out our Garbodor. Let's see here. Or I might just promote my Hoopa actually and just attack with the Gale Thrust for 110. There's 90 damage. Yeah, I might just attack with the Gale Thrust here. So let's promote our Hoopa. We have the Escape Rope. Then we can do some damage if we can't get out our Mega Scizor. An Ultra Ball. Well, do we use our Ultra Ball? I will Escape Rope right here. Go Scizor. What is my opponent going to promote? Is it going to promote the Giratina or the Darkrai without the energy attached to it? That is the one and only question at the moment. Actually promotes the Giratina with the energy attached to it. Interesting. Then we will we Ultra Ball for something? I might as well get out my Garbodor here. Discard this Scizor and the Lysander. I did say that in reverse order, I know. Or we could get out our Cobalion, but I think the Garbodor is a little bit more urgent at the moment, so we can attack if my opponent does decide to promote the Giratina. Then we will Sycamore. There's no need to use our puzzle here. Sycamore it is. We find the Mega Scizor and a Spirit Link. Alright, I will use the Mega Scizor then, or get out the Mega Scizor, so my opponent cannot one-hit KO us, or should not be able to one-hit KO us. We still haven't seen any more hammers, which is slightly annoying. We will not discard our own stadium. We'll simply hit for 120 damage there, which is a 2-hit KO on this Darkrai EX. Cobalion is going to be super useful as well in this match, because my opponent only plays basic Pokemon, and then we can actually prevent damage from my opponent for 1 turn with the first attack from our Cobalion, and then hit for a ton of damage with its second attack. So I will have to see if I can get out my Cobalion at some point. I will need to time it very well. If I get it out right now, my opponent might just Lysander it, and we don't really want to see that. And there we do see the retreat into the Darkrai, and a Lysander on our Garbodor. Is going to knock out our Garbodor straight away here, or is going to try to knock out our Garbodor straight away. 90 damage, just a little bit short there. Mega Turbo. No need for that. We need to find our Floatstone here. My opponent seems to be stuck with a little bit of a bad hand. Do I want to use this Mega Turbo? I am not going to, and I think I'm simply going to Sycamore. Oh, this is a bummer. We will have to discard our Mega Turbo. Well, do I get it back? Do I not get it back? I might just Mega Turbo here. Get that energy back from my discard pile, put it on my Mega Scizor, and then we will Sycamore here. We are looking for our Floatstone. And there's our Floatstone, amazing. We also get 2 puzzles. Do I use one of these puzzles? I am not sure. We'll definitely use our Hammer here. We'll discard the energy attached to the Darkrai in the active spots. Force my opponent to attach to the Darkrai. Then do we use our 2 puzzles right now for 2 more hammers? We could do that. We could definitely do that. I will definitely retreat here into my Mega Scizor, and I think I will use my puzzles here. Make sure we can discard some more energy, so we will grab some two hammers back from the discard pile. Hopefully we can flip one heads. That's the only thing I'm hoping for here at the moment. So we can discard one energy to the active Darkrai. Yes, we do flip a heads. This should allow us to prevent my opponent from attacking our Mega Scizor for one more turn. Then another heads. Look at that. We discarded all the energies from our opponent. And we hit for 120 damage on this Darkrai. Things are looking up very nicely for us. We have another energy for a Scizor here. If we do see a Listener on this Garbodor again, then I don't think my opponent can knock it out because he doesn't have any energy. So if we will see a Listener, it will be maybe on our Hoopa to stall. But that is just the Sycamore discarding two Garbodor, a Shaman. Shaman, my opponent could not play it down because of our Parallel City. So our Parallel City definitely was helpful there. We do see him discard that's Max Elixir as well. So 3 energies in the discard pile, an energy on the Darkrai on the bench. And then we might just see a pass of the turn actually. Unless we see a Max Elixir and a switch. A Listener for the next turn to knock out our Garbodor. I think we kind of need to knock out my opponent's Giratina right now, or we need to deal with it using our Scizor EX on the bench, and we can do that. We can retreat this Mega Scizor into our Scizor on the bench and then hit for 110 against the Giratina because of the extra energy that we have attached to our Mega Scizor. So we actually, if we retreat, we actually keep 1 energy on this Mega Scizor, which means we can power it up by attaching just 1 energy from our hand, and just like that this Mega Scizor will be ready to go again if we decide to retreat into the Scizor on our bench. Discards our stadium or counters our stadium with a Reverse Valley, which actually reduces damage done to us by 10, which is amazing. So we will attach an energy here. There's our Cobalion. Do we play down our Cobalion right now? Might as well. And then we will Sycamore here. We are going to Sycamore, bring ourselves down to 7 cards. Thin out our deck as much as we can. There we do see a Spirit Link, which is good. We'll attach a Spirit Link. We'll keep the Float Stone for now. And we'll simply hit for the KO here. We're going to keep the Float Stone and the Spirit Link, I think. I don't think we'll need any more Scizors or Mega Scizors. Actually, I might attach a Spirit Link to my Shaman just to thin out my deck. And then we'll hit for the Iron Crusher for the knockouts. Discard that Stadium. So my opponent does not, well actually the Stadium, it didn't matter, but I might as well discard it. Because it balanced out, or it balanced out. My opponent did 10 more damage, but reduced 10 damage at the same time. So that is plus 10, minus 10 is 0. We do get a VS Seeker. Is that our, no, it's our 3rd VS Seeker. I thought it might be our last VS Seeker, but we actually have 3 more VS Seekers, which is pretty awesome. We do see an energy on the Darkrai. Then will we see anything else? Max Elixirs, a Float Stone on the Giratina on the bench. And a Listener on our Garbodor. Is going to knock out our Garbodor, so now we kind of need to find our Super Odds if we want to shut down a Giratina again. So he's going to go for the stall tactics here. Takes a prize. That is 2 prizes from our opponent, 2 prizes for us, but we are definitely looking a little bit better. And we have our Cobalion to deal with the Giratina as well. So let's start powering up our Cobalion. Let us... Do we Mega Evolve? No, we will not Mega Evolve. We will simply, actually, we'll Listener out the Giratina right now. No, we cannot do that. Our Garbodor just got knocked out. Darn it. Well, we'll simply knock out this here Darkrai for 120 damage. Maybe I should have benched this other Scizor, but I don't really want to bench another Listener target. We get a Garbodor and a Super Rod. There is our Super Rod. Now that I think about it, I probably should have benched the Scizor. Because now, if we get ends, my opponent shuffles back the Scizor into my deck. Although I can shuffle the Trumbies back in my deck, and maybe we can get out another Garbodor. There we do see the Giratina come up and a Darkrai from my opponent. We will retreat here into our Scizor on the bench, hit for 110. And then it's going to be interesting here. I think we'll simply deal with the Giratina using our Scizor, so I'm going to bench this other Scizor. Will I attach a Float Stone anywhere? Again, I will just keep the Float Stone, I think. Will we Mega Evolve? No, we will not Mega Evolve. Do we use our Super Rods? 2 energies in discard pile, 4 in play. 2 energies could be prized, which means we have 1 more energy in our deck if 2 energies are prized. If only 1 energy is prized, we have 2 more energies in our deck, so I don't really need to use the Super Rods. I'm not going to do it. I'm simply going to hit for 110 damage against this Giratina here. And in the next turn we can Listener it out, and Actually, can we do anything against it if we license it out? We can hit for 50, I guess. But that is not really enough. An Ultra Ball from my opponents. Discarding a Hex Maniac and a Trubbish. No Garbodor from my opponents. And a baby Eviltal, alright. No Shamans either there. Maybe my opponent only plays the one Shaman. Will we see anything else? Maybe an N and a Sycamore. No N, which is good. So we can Listener. We can maybe Listener the Darkrai. That might be our best play. An Energy on the Giratina. And a Floatstone on the Giratina on the bench. Alright. Then we do see a Trainer's Mail for... Actually, can we use the Pokemon Ranger? No, we cannot. We can use our Hexmaniac though. Hexmaniac is in the discard pile. No, he's not. Okay, we haven't seen our Hexmaniac yet. Hexmaniac would be super useful here to deal with the Giratina. Is the Hexmaniac prized maybe? It could be prized. And retreat into the Giratina on the bench. So it is not over yet. Definitely not over yet. Crushing Hammer. Don't mind if I do. It's a Tails this time around. Alright, fair enough. We will maybe Mega Evolve. Will we Mega Evolve? I'm going to shuffle max some energies right now. 2 energies and a Trubbish. Then we will Mega Evolve. I'm gonna do it. And we are going to Listener here. We are going to Listener the Darkrai. I'm not sure if my opponent will be able to retreat the Darkrai. If it does, we can Listener again. So, Iron Crusher it is for 120 damage. If he does power up the Giratina and can retreat in the Giratina, hit us for 100 damage, my opponent will need to take 3 turns to knock us out. And in that time, we should be able to set up our Cobalion on our bench to hit for a KO on my opponent's Pokemon. I think, yes, I think that should be possible. Seeker for a Listener, alright, so another Listener. We do see the Listener on maybe the Hoopa. Yes, alright, so we have our Floatstone here. That is why we kept the Floatstone in our deck just for this here situation. So we will Floatstone our Hoopa. We will retreat into our Scizor. We could Hex Maniac, but we'll simply knock out this here Darkrai. Yes, indeed. Alright, I was just thinking here, Hexmaniac has no points, has no use for us at the moment, but I meant we could Hexmaniac if my opponent would have promoted the Giratina or something like that, because we did top deck our Hexmaniac. Our Hexmaniac was in our deck after all, and look at that, we won against Darkrai, Giratina, Garbodor, a very competitive deck. It didn't really give us too much trouble there, I must say. I'm very happy with how that went for us. I think the hammers definitely came in clutch there, and that is why Mega Scizor EX with hammers is so damn powerful. It can really destroy your opponent if you can flip a couple of heads on those hammers. 830 damage dealt versus 240 from my opponent. Mega Scizor EX MVP versus Darkrai EX. We were a little bit lucky with the flips, although not too much. Only 1 more heads than tails, so 3 heads and 2 tails. Alright, let's find ourselves another opponent. Jeffrey Ban challenges us to a battle with his colorless, lightning, and psychic deck. Alright, I think we're up against Night March, to be honest. So this is gonna be one of the very last times we will be playing Night March in the standard format. Because it's only a couple more days until rotation comes along. I will probably release this on the day that rotation happens, I think. But this was recorded a couple of days before. So we do see the Righteous Leaves from my opponent. Very nice Righteous Leaves. My goodness, those are nice leaves. Those are very nice. And we start off with 2 mulligans in a row. That is not good. Don't want to give my opponent more cards. Another mulligan. Luckily, this was a mulligan though. That was a terrible hand. So let's see. What do we get here? Another... Oh no, we do find our Trubbish here. But this is not a good hand either. My goodness, what's going on here? Alrighty. Alrighty then, we can't seem to start off with our Scizor for some reason. So is my opponent playing Night March, or is it maybe a Manectric? Could be Manectric as well. If it is Night March, definitely off to a good start. And yes, look at that, what a huge hand. 10 cards in my opponent's starting hand. There is nothing to complain about for my opponent here. We actually are not in a very good position. There's a DCE on a Pumpkaboo. Luckily, we do start off with our Trubbish, so if my opponent takes a prize the next turn, he will only take 1 prize. Oh wow, discards 2 VS Seekers. That is amazing. Discards 2 VS Seekers and a Shaman. The Shaman, not so much. I would love to see my opponent play down a Shaman, so we can license out a Shaman and deal with a Shaman. Take 2 prizes that way. That is going to be the only way we will take this match here. Unless we can get my opponents, run my opponent out of DCEs. So we did see the Battle Compressor. So 6 Night Marchers in a discard pile already. And then 3 in play. That means there's only 3 more left and a pass of the turn. Alright. So our Trubbish is definitely going to go down. We do top deck the Scizor, which is amazing. That is frankly amazing. Do we do anything else here? Yes, I will discard my hands. We need to find more Pokemon to bench here. Ideally another Trubbish. And we can get out another Trubbish here. We can discard this N and an energy. Do we discard an N? Yes, I will want to Sycamore in the next turn, so we'll discard an N and an energy. My opponent still needs to find... what does my opponent need to find here? Still needs to find Dimension Valley. And then we can maybe counter the Dimension Valley in the next turn. I'm not sure. So let's end our turn here. Let's see what my opponent will do. Maybe I should have gone for a Hoopa instead of the Trubbish, but Garbodor is going to be useful to prevent my opponent from using Shamans in the late game for sure. So I kind of want to rely on my Garbodor here. And we don't see a Lysander, which is good. I was kind of afraid of a Lysander here, but we didn't see that. So we do see the N, which is a bummer, because now we need to find our energy and our Mega Scizor again. And it doesn't look like we have a good hand, so we might have to get out of Shaman here. That's a bit of a bummer N for us. We don't even see hammers. We do get our Garbodor, which is good. Will we be able to knock out this Pumpkaboo? I think we will. Battle Compressor. It would be nice to find hammers to discard a DCE on my benched Mew. That would be amazing. Will my opponent discard any more Night Marchers here? Hopefully he does. And we also see the Shaman from my opponent actually discards more Battle Compressors. So for now he's not 1-hit KOing us. He's 40 damage short with the Joltix, I think. So 4, 6, actually 60 damage short. 60 damage short. So we'll promote our Scizor EX. We don't even need our Mega Scizor to stay alive at the moment. That is amazing for us. And a Floatstone. Bummer. Wish I had promoted my Trubbish now. Because then we could have come in and hit for Gale Thrust maybe. So let's, do we attach the Floatstone? No, we will not do that at the moment. We'll simply discard the Hex Maniac and Spirit Link or Puzzle. Probably a Puzzle. No, actually let's discard the Spirit Link. We might be able to get Spirit Links back with our Puzzles. But we can't do the reverse. We can't get Puzzles back with our Spirit Links. So let's grab ourselves the Mega Scizor, because we don't seem to have any Shamans. All the Shamans seem to be prized. What we need now is we need to find a energy from the Giovanni's scheme. Or it is GG here. So let's attach the Floatstone. And then let's Giovanni's scheme for 4 more cards. Please give us the energy. I could have used the puzzle. There's the energy. Alright, we did find the energy. Fantastic. And another Scizor. So we will discard the Stadium in play here. That is going to be our play. Discard that Stadium in play with our Iron Crusher. We definitely should stay alive in the next turn. And then we can try to set up another Scizor here on the bench. What do we get? We get a energy. Fantastic. An energy for the next turn. We have a VS Seeker for a Sycamore, I think. Or an N maybe. Actually maybe an N. We could end my opponent back down to 5 cards. I think that might be the better play. What is that? It's a teammates. Okay, so we still haven't seen any hammers. Still looking for my hammers here. It's going to be very important that we find our hammers at some point. My opponent could grab some puzzles here. And then get back DCE from discard pile with those puzzles. I wouldn't mind seeing my opponent using the puzzles at the moment. I would rather see my opponent use them now than in a late game. So those puzzles are gone forever. Ideally, I would like my opponent, or I would like to see my opponent discard puzzles. That would be ideal here with a Sycamore or something, but I don't think that will happen. At least not in this turn, because my opponent used that teammates already. So no Sycamores here this turn. And what is it going to be? Definitely not a knockout. Startling Megaphone discards our Floatstone and our Spirit Link. Alright, now we need to find another floatstone for our Garbodor. We definitely need to find our last Spirit Link as well for the Scizor on the bench here. Retreat into the Pumpkaboo. Oh my goodness. Why? And escape rope into... I'm gonna promote my Garbodor. I am going to promote my Garbodor. I'm completely fine with the Garbodor going down at the moment. There's a Mew, will knock out the Garbodor. I think my opponent was hoping to see the Garbodor, so he can still attack with his Mews later on in the game. But I'd rather give my opponent one prize than put damage on the Mega Scizor and then take 2 prizes in the next turn. Because now our Mega Scizor is safe for another 2 turns. We won't see a Lysander this turn, so we know we won't see any damage on the Mega Scizor. Unless we had seen maybe, what is it called again? The Pokemon Catcher, and then a heads on a Pokemon Catcher. That would have been awful for us. So he does knock out the Garbodor, or she does knock out the Garbodor. We will knock out this Mew in return. And there's another puzzle, fantastic. So we will puzzle here, use both of our puzzles. Ideally, I want to keep them for my hammers, but I think we need to do it right here, right now. Grab the Spirit Link. Is there anything else we kind of need at the moment? We'll leave the energy in the discard pile, we'll grab a Trubbish. We should have one more Garbodor somewhere. Yes, let's grab a Trubbish here. And let's get out another Trubbish. Yeah, we have one more Garbodor somewhere, and we have another Mega Scizor somewhere as well, so we don't need to get back that Mega Scizor at the moment. And then let us play down our stadium. Maybe I should not have done that. Well, I kind of wanted to end, but maybe not. I will not end. My opponent seems to be stuck with a little bit of a bad hand here, so we will simply Sycamore our hand away. We see Cobalion. Cobalion is good. We also see a Mega Turbo, but we don't really have a need for the Mega Turbo at the moment. We could find ourselves the Mega Scizor here in the next turn, or the Garbodor, and attach a Spirit Link. For now, I'll simply hit for the Iron Crusher for a KO here. Keep on limiting my opponent's bench size. 120 damage right there. We'll leave the stadium in play. What can we get from the prizes? We get a Shaman. Alright, no need for the Shamans. We'll discard the Shaman with our Ultra Ball. That is going to be our play here. Discard that Shaman. We don't want to see any Lysanders on our Shamans. Still, my opponent cannot knock out our Scizor EX on the bench. He is still 70, 80, 90. It's still two Night Marchers short in the discard pile. There's another Mew. We do see the counter stadium, which is okay. We'll discard that Dimension Valley. Yes, alright, we'll definitely discard the Dimension Valley. There's a puzzle of time. Alright, now my opponent is using the puzzles. So my opponent must have grabbed the puzzles in the previous turn and is using them right now, which is why I maybe should have gone for the N. Oh well, it's too late now, and we are still looking pretty darn good. We can always Lysander the Shaman once we have dealt with 2 more Night Marchers to take the game that way. And I think we should definitely be able to do it. There's a Shaman for my opponent. Is going to bench another Shaman. Only grabs 1 DCE with those 2 puzzles. And we still have all of our hammers here. All of our hammers are still in our deck. There we do see 2 cards from the Shaman. Wow. I think we actually have a good chance at taking this game here against Night March. An Ultra Ball is going to discard maybe some more Night Marchers. Discards 1 more Night Marcher and a Pokemon Ranger. So now there's 8 Night Marchers in the discard pile. The next turn my opponent will be able to KO my Scizor. So I need to get out my Mega Scizor here. And evolve my Scizor on the bench into the Mega Scizor for the next turn. So we can't see a Lysander on the Scizor on the bench. There's a Fighting for a Belt on that Joltik. And another Shaman for 4 more cards. Really thinning out his deck here, or her deck, my opponent. So not too bad here that turn from my opponent. Not too bad at all. But is benching a lot of easy targets for us. And we don't have any Shamans on our bench. And we even still have our Cobalion to potentially stall, which is fantastic. We'll definitely bench the Cobalion. That much is for sure. Because that Cobalion can be super duper useful for us. Trainer's Mail for... What will we see from the Trainer's Mail? Maybe a puzzle for the next turn or something. I am definitely going to end, I think. Definitely, maybe not. Kinda want to end when my opponent is down to 2 cards here, or to 2 prizes. That seems like the best play to end when that happens. And not waste my VS Seekers on an end before that. So what is my opponent finding from this trainer's mail? Will we see... Oh, special charge. Oh, bummer. So now we definitely are going to put that special charge back in my opponent's deck. Unless my opponent is going to use that right now, then we will not end, because then my opponent has already used it. Then there's no point to going for the end. I do think my opponent will wait until the next turn, because my opponent only has one DCE in the discard pile right now. So we won't be able to run my opponent out of DCE eventually. Via Seeker for... teammates for the next turn. Okay, we are definitely going to end all of those cards back in my opponent's deck. And actually it's going to teammates right now. I thought my opponent had used a supporter, but it turns out my opponent had not. So my opponent drew only with the Shamans then. That's pretty impressive. We will see maybe 2 puzzles for the next turn. Alright, is my opponent going to use what she got there from the teammates? I don't think she is. I think we'll just see the attack here, which means that's a little bit of a misplay there, because we have seen this before and now we know my opponent grabbed some useful things there. So we are going to go for that end and shuffle those cards back in my opponent's deck, which means my opponent wasted a VS Seeker on the teammates right now. Unless she uses those cards this turn. There's a Finding Fairy Belt on the Mew. Again, that doesn't really matter. We can one-hit KO the Mew, we can one-hit KO the Joltik, we can one-hit KO the Shamans, even with our Scizor EX. So will we see an attack right here? My opponent is taking a long time this turn. My goodness, that's a really, really long time. So we'll actually take the prize lead here. We are going to go down to 3 prizes. My opponent will still need to take 4 prizes. 140 damage right there. Alrighty. Crushing Hammer. No need for that at the moment. I'll discard the Shaman. I'll discard the Scizor. No need to get out another Scizor here. We'll grab ourselves our Mega Scizor. It would be cool to grab the Trubbish, or the Garbodor for the Trubbish. But I think it's more urgent to grab our Mega Scizor here. Then we will attach an energy, or maybe we'll Mega Turbo and we'll attach to our Cobalion on the bench. I think that seems like the smarter play. We can even retreat our Mega Scizor in the active spot to prevent the knockout in the next turn. So we force my opponent to use a Lysander. Let's attach a Spirit Link to our Trubbish. And then let's go for that N here. Definitely let's go for the N. Give ourselves 4 cards, give my opponent 4 cards, we find an Escape Rope, amazing stuff. I can try to Crushing Hammer that energy while I at the same time Escape Rope here. And I think I'll do that here. It is a heads. Alright, we discard the energy. We will Escape Rope into our Scizor EX. Discard the Dimension Valley. Maybe knock out the Mew or the Joltik. Probably either of the two. My opponent is not going to promote those Shamans. And this gives us a really good shot, because now my opponent needs to find another Dimension Valley if he wants to attack with the Pumpkaboo. He or she wants to attack with the Pumpkaboo. I hope she promotes the Joltik, because then my opponent also needs to find a Dimension Valley to attack with the Mew here. And just promote the Mew, alright. So we'll switch into our Mega Scizor. We will hit for the Iron Crusher, discard that Stadium, give ourselves 1 more prize. In the next turn we'll take another prize. And I think then we have the game here. I think we have gotten the game if we take another prize in the next turn. All we need to do then is Lysander out my opponent's Shaman. We haven't seen our Lysander yet, but we should be able to find it from the Sycamore in the next turn. If we don't find it then, I'm not sure what we are going to do. We'll just simply have to deal with the Night Marchers from our opponent then, I guess. Or we can still use our Cobalion to stall, and there is the victory from my opponent. My opponent gave up. I think we had everything here on the board to take the game. Eventually we had our Cobalion with the quick attack, stalling or reducing, preventing damage done to our Cobalion. That's what I tried to say here. We had our Trubbish for our Garbodor. We had 2 Mega Scizors who could still attack. That was a really great match against this Night March deck. Mega Scizor, there it is for you, ladies and gentlemen. We won against Night March. We dealt 360 damage, my opponent dealt 660 damage. Mega Scizor EX MVP versus Mew. 1 head flipped, 1 tails flipped. Alright, let's find ourselves another opponent. Mecha challenges us to a battle with his colorless Water, Psychic, and Fairy deck. I think this is Xerneas BREAK, Water, Psychic, Fairy. Although I don't know what the Water typing would be about. Maybe this Xerneas Rainbow Force. At the very least,
Karp, 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 Karp.